everybody, it's Rachel here from Rachthestamper.wordpress.com. Sorry I haven't talked to you guys in a while. I've been kind of crazy around my house here, but I wanted to show you this really pretty card that I made for our Stampin Demo Group's Thanksgiving blog hop. Now, if you can see this card, it's a little bit difficult for me to show you because of the way I film, but this card is a stand-up card, but when you see it, it kind of looks like the fence is running throughout the card the way it lays. So I made this really pretty fence using the new classic label punch and the hardwood stamp. That's the background stamp. And then I used, what are my two stamp sets? They've already disappeared. I used the greeting from Sweet Season and Everything Give Thanks. And then I used the Sheltering Tree stamp set to make the rest of the image. So this card has a little bit of a fun fold. It definitely stands up, and when it does stand up, it gives this a little illusion of just a little fence. And I actually left a little hole over here so it was like you could walk through. So it looks really pretty when it's closed. And the way I did it is I did this all in one sheet. So as you can see, when it's closed, everything is kind of linked together. And then this part also matches over here. So I kind of gave this its own little spot. You could also put something up top if you'd like, but I kind of thought it lent a little bit more to the picture when you can see it sitting up, just to see the whole card. Really pretty. I'll try to get you a really cool picture on my blog of it sitting up so you can see what I mean with the little fence effect. So anyway, this card does look a little complicated, but it's very easy to make, and I'm going to show you how to make one. This one I did using Cajun Craze, but I'm going to show you a demo I did also on, what is that, Garden Green. But you could do this on any fall color, really. You could. It would really look nice also in Delightful Dijon. That'll be really pretty. Crushed curry. Even pumpkin pie would look great. Okay, so these are all the color markers that I used for different parts of the card. You don't have to use nearly that many. And I want to show you one other thing. So this is the card base. So as you can see, it just folds and it stands up on its own completely by itself, which is really cool because people can look at this like a little picture. So this card does require a little bit of cutting and scoring, but don't let it intimidate you. It was super easy to make. And the good part is you could make 2 cards out of one piece of cardstock because this is 4 1/4 by 10. So it's smaller. You can get 2 out of every full-size cardstock, which is 8 1/2 by 11. So let me show you this. Again, this one was in Garden Green. I think it's Garden Green. Maybe it's Always Artichoke. My fault. Always Artichoke is that one. Okay. So we will do one in, I think I have some. Let's do pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie it is. All right. So, sorry. That was very ill-prepared of me. I apologize. Had everything else all set up except for the cardstock I was going to use. Okay, so what we're going to do first is I'm going to show you how to cut the card. Okay, let me get this out of the way. So you have a full sheet of cardstock here. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to trim it long ways at 4 1/4, so just straight across. So now you can make 2 out of this if you'd like. And what you're going to do is you're going to trim this to 10 inches. So trim that piece off. You can save this, use it for something else. And then what we're going to do is a little bit of scoring. So first we're going to score it in half. So we're going to score it at 5 1/2 on the long side. Okay. And then what we're going to do is we're going to move this to 3 1/4. And I apologize. I'm going to try not to get my head in the way. 3 1/4. And we're going to score this down right here to the 1 1/2 mark on the cardstock. So let me see if you can see that. I'll put a piece of white in there. So right along here you have all these measurements. So what we're going to do is we're going to score it to the 1 1/2. Okay. So once again, make sure you have it at 3 1/4, and you're going to score down to 1 1/2. And if you're not exactly right, it's not going to really make or break your card. You might just see a tiny line. No big deal. Now we're going to move this down to 7 3/4. And then this time we're going to move our little scoring blade and we're going to score up. So we're going to score from the bottom up to the 1 1/2 mark. So up to the 1 1/2 and down. Okay. So you see you have your half mark and then you're down to 1 1/2 up to 1 1/2. Okay. So now we're going to put this long ways again. And what we're going to do now is we're going to move this to 2 5/8. So that's 1 tick mark past the 1/2 inch. And now what we're going to do is you're going to see these little lines don't exactly match up. It's truly no big deal. It is not going to bother your card at all. So now we're going to do a little cutting. So what we're going to do, move this, just make sure I'm not in just a tiny hair. We're going to cut from, so we're going to move our little scoring blade over to meet our score line. So this is our cutting blade. We're going to cut from here down to the other score line. So if you think you missed a little bit, you can just go just a little, pick it up just a smidge. There you go, perfectly fine. So that's your card. Okay, now we are going to use our trimmer again, so don't let that get too far away. And what we're going to do is we're going to fold. So we're going to fold this in half, but we're going to fold one half up, one half down. We're going to fold this one so, and fold this one like so. Okay, so it folds right there. This will fit in a regular size envelope because right now it's 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So what we're going to do is we're going to take our bone folder and just reinforce the creases on all of them. That way it'll assure that it stands up really nicely. Okay, so the other thing that I did, just to give this the continued look, is I stamped one piece of cardstock because it's going to kind of, if you figure right here, it's going to take up everything. So you're going to have a piece for here. You're going to have your little piece for here. And what I did is I had to go back and improvise this piece, but it was super simple. So I'm going to show you how to do it. So we have 2 pieces here of Whisper White cardstock. These are both cut at 4 by 5 1/4. And the other thing that I went ahead and did to save time, because there are a couple components to this card, so just to save some time, is I inked up the hardwood background stamp with Early Espresso. And then when you do a background stamp like this, sometimes it's easier if you actually lay your cardstock onto it. So you ink it up and you put your cardstock on and then you just run over it. And you could even use a piece of scrap so you don't get your hand dirty and just run all the way over it. And what it'll do is it'll transfer the ink, well, you can see it's still a little wet, to the cardstock. So it makes a much better coverage on it. Okay. And then I simply took the classic label punch and I punched out a bunch of pickets for the fence. So I think I did about, what do I have here? 8. And some of them are going to get cut in half and some of them are going to get cut in half lengthwise. So you're not going to really need all of these. So I kind of just eyeballed and punched a bunch. So I just want to let you know that was a time saver so you don't have to watch that whole process as well. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to get a piece of scrap paper and we're also going to get our Stampin' Pierce mat. This is really good for photopolymer stamps, which we are using a couple. Okay, so we're going to be using the tree from our stamp set, Sheltering Tree. Yep, that's right, Sheltering Tree. And I'm going to do this in Early Espresso. So what I'm going to do is get my large, this is E, my large clear block. And I'm going to go ahead and ink up my stamp. And with these photopolymer ones, you just want to make sure that when you do stamp your stamp, you give it nice pressure. And you give it a second for the ink to transfer. Otherwise, you'll get kind of a yucky image. And also, you want to push on the stamp, not just on the block. Okay, beautiful. That's really nice and crisp. I'm going to tell you, from personal experience, it took me a long time to get used to using these. So if you have one and you're kind of giving up, don't. Just give yourself a little bit more time, press on the center of the image, and give your ink time to transfer because that really, really does help your image. Because some of mine were awful, and I thought, this is ridiculous. I'll never buy photopolymer stamps again. But now that I learned how to use them, they're much better. So I'm going to kind of also give the branches just coming in from the top, so I'm just turning it around. You're not going to really notice the main branch part unless you're looking for it, so don't worry about it. Most likely, no one else is going to realize what that is. And we're going to just do another little piece over here on the side. You could do it on the top if you wanted to, but I thought that was enough. And then the other thing we're going to do, let me get this out of the way so I don't make a mess, is we're going to use a little bit, and the first time I used Pear Pizzazz, I'm going to use Garden Green. So this also comes with a nice, it has a lot of accessories for this. So it's got a little grass mound. So we're going to go ahead and use that. And even though we have fall leaves, we're going to use a little bit darker color of a grass mound. And you can always stamp off once. Okay, same thing. We'll go full ink on this one. And stamp off just to get rid of that line. going to stamp off once more, and I'm going to do one just in the middle, just a little bit. And then one more here just to fill in that white space below. Okay, so that's going to be our main card. And then I'm going to just do a little piece over here just to do that little piece that we need to fit in on the side. So I'm going to just do it over here. And then I'll go underneath a little bit just to fill in the color. This one doesn't need to be huge, so you don't have to do the whole thing. Okay, you also have a lot of other cute little accessories that you can use with that one. There's a nice tree swing that you could put in. There's a rake. I'm going to do the rake. And I'm going to do that in the Archival Basic Black ink. Let's see if I can find a small. These tiny, tiny A blocks are really great for these little doodads. We're just going to lean this up against the tree as if we've been hard raking all day. All right, let's see what else. So there's a swing, there's a bicycle, there's some grass, there's some flowers, but we're not going to do all those today. What we are going to do is we're going to color the, these are the leaves on the tree. So we're going to do these. Let me see if I can get this off here without making a gigantic mess. Little Stampin Mist over here. I have my Stampin Scrub, which I never, ever, ever used to use. I thought it was a complete waste of time and money until I started making a lot of stamps and used a lot of my stamps one after the other, and I really love this now. So, and I'm not a big extra accessory person. I kind of like just the basics and that's it, but I found that it really did help when I was making a lot of cards in a row. Okay, let me get the black out of the way. So what I did with this, instead of using the ink pads, I kind of did it with the markers, and I did it how I felt I wanted it to look. So you can make this look fall, you could make it look regular tree, you could do this as a spring card as well if you wanted to change up the theme. You could do it really anyway. But what I did is I kind of started with the lightest color that I wanted to use. So this is Crushed Curry. You could also use Daffodil Delight or So Saffron. And what I did is I took the brush tip part of the marker and I just ran across the whole thing. Not covering the entire part, just kind of went across. And then I brought in the other colors. This is Pumpkin Pie that I wanted to use. Some of it's going to go over, some of it's going to be really dark, some may be light. And just for good measure, we'll throw in a little bit of garden green. You could even put in some real red. Totally up to you. I do give it a huff even though I just inked it, which is just exhaling on it just to make sure it's wet. And I know we probably could have just done one side of this since the other side's going onto the ink. And we'll see if we can get a second one up here since this is a little bit lighter. Okay, that was a little bit light. We can go back in and fill that in again. And now what I'm going to do is just the same thing on this side. So same thing. This time I'm going to do a little bit different so it looks like some different trees. So this one is Pumpkin Pie. And then instead I'm going to go in with a little bit of real red. And yes, I probably should have cleaned this off, but I was being lazy. And here, see, goes to show you, I put the wrong side. So I'm going to just flip mine over and use it anyway. Doing things the backwards way today. Okay, and then I'm going to do this one more time, and I'm going to turn around to the other side. And I'm going to do one a little bit more just yellow. So this is Crushed Curry. And then I'm going to go in just with a little bit of, is this Saffron? No, Daffodil Delight. Just a little Daffodil Delight. Okay, and this is again just going to come in on the top here. I think the Aspen, I don't know if that's right, it's one of a more yellow tree. Oops, okay, so there you go. That's all we're going to do for that. So our little mound here, I do want to give this a little bit of something just because it is kind of boring. So what we can do is there are some little, I always think these are grass, but apparently I believe they're flowers. So they could be grass, they could be flowers. You can pick whatever it is you want them to be. We're going to just do a couple of these. And I'm going to get out the Always Artichoke just to make them a little darker. And then we'll just fill in some flowers. So these can be like some fall flowers or some mums or whatever it is. It could even be just grass. You could just put grass if you didn't want to make it fancy. Kind of just give that little fuzzy hill look. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do this with, we'll do this with some pumpkin pie because I think it's gonna show up a little bit more. So I'm going to just do it with the marker since I have it out. So I'm going to just rub my marker over top and just keep your marker handy because you're going to need it a lot. Put a lot of stuff here. And double stamping just to give a little bit of visual effect. Okay, that's good enough because I don't want it to look too flowery or tulipy. Okay, so the only thing we have to do now, I did go ahead, I'm going to show you one other thing I'm going to color in. I did go ahead and cut my circle framelits out for this. So I did one in Garden Green, and this is the third from the largest in the layering oval framelits. So this is the scallop. It's the third largest scallop. Okay, so then we're going to use that. And then I also did, so I believe this is So Saffron or Daffodil Delight. Nope, So Saffron. This is the fourth largest circle, or sorry, oval. And then we're also going to use the fifth largest oval for our greeting. Okay, so we have these two to layer. And let me just move this out of the way for 1 second. I'm going to show you real quick with the Big Shot what we're going to do. Okay, so really quickly, move this out of the way so I don't break anything. So this is the fifth largest oval right here that we're going to use. Okay, I'm just going to set this on the side for a moment. Okay, and then what I have over here is the greeting. It says, "In everything, give thanks." Just scoot this a little bit to the side. I just want to make sure this is clean. Okay. Yep, see, it wasn't. That would have been awful. So for this, what I did is I just kind of went in and filled in the colors as I saw fit. So we have a little bit more of like a yellow, reddish theme. So instead, I think yesterday, or yeah, when I did this other card, I did soft suede, pumpkin pie, and then So Saffron. So I'm going to leave out the soft suede on this one. We're going to just stick with, how about we stick with green pumpkin pie. So Garden Green pumpkin pie, and I think instead I'm going to use So Saffron. Yeah, we're going to stick with that. All right. So I'm going to start with my bottom first. So I find that if you hold your marker away and you go straight down, it kind of lends to not messing up the rest of the image quite as much. So we got that So Saffron, and we're going to do the pumpkin pie in the top. So we're going to do the Garden Green for the words. So now what I did is I went and turned it around the other way. So I'm coloring against what I already colored. And it kind of, I find that it gives you just a little bit better control. And even if you get a little bit up on the top thing up there, we can fix it. So don't worry about that. All right, and then lastly, we'll go in, my tongue is tired, with pumpkin pie, and we're going to just fill in the top words. Okay, and once again, we're going to go ahead and give this a huff, and just stamp it. Okay, and if that's a little bit light, you can always go back in and fill it. I'm not going to worry about it. Okay, so what we're going to do now is you're just going to run this really quickly through the Big Shot. Again, this is the fifth largest oval, and it just barely fits in here, but I kind of didn't want to give the bigger one because it just looked a little bit too, it had too much white space. All right, so I'm going to just pop this through real quick. Let's see. Oh, I might have needed my extra. I think I needed my extra dye in there, and I took it out. I'm going to bring this through really quickly. Yeah, there's my thin die adapter. So just give me one more sec. I just want to crank this back through. Forgot about that. Okay, it's gone. Once you hear the crack, you know you did it right. Okay, so there's our little oval. Okay, move this out of the way. Okay, and now we just have a little bit more to do. Just a little bit of trimming. So we need to trim up our little white spots for them to fit. Okay, So this first piece is going to be 3 1/4 across. That's what this is. So we're going to measure it just slightly less than that. So it doesn't have to be exact. So what I did is I went with 3 1/4 and then I just went a hair smaller. Okay, and then this should be, this was 2 1/4. So this kind of ends up measuring exactly right. So you're going to have this piece over here. Perfect. And then this piece over here. So they kind of go together well. And then this piece here at the bottom, I think this was 2, yeah, it's like 2 1/4. So it'll be a hair shy of 2 1/4, about 2 1/2. So about a little less than 2 1/4 by 2 1/2. So we're going to measure this the backwards way. So we'll go with 2 1/4 will be there. And about 2 1/2. Just a little less, and then that should fit perfectly right in there. Okay, so now all we have to do is put our card together. So we're going to just use some snail for all of these pieces, and then we're going to do a little bit of layering with these, and then I'm going to show you how to put your fence posts on, and we are good to go. So let's put some snail here. Oops, upside down. And I thought this was a really cute card just as it is, and then once I added in the little fence post, it made it so much more dear. It really gave a lot more depth, believe it or not, to the card. And it doesn't quite matter if your lines line up because this is going to take over. So if you have a silicone mat, or silicone mat, however it is you say it, Silicon Valley, I don't know, I'm confused. It's easier because then you don't goopy up your desk like I did. So what I did is I put all of my little fence posts facing the other way so I can glue them. And I kind of eyeballed this, so I'm not going to do them all at the same time. Move a couple of these off so I don't ruin it. So what I did is I went ahead and put snail on them. Do at least 4. All right, so here's 4. Did that even get, that didn't even get glue on it. How do you like that? Let's try that again. There we go. Okay, so we're going to take and put our fence posts here, kind of however you like them. Space them out. It's up to you. It's your card. No matter what, it's going to look really cute. One more. Okay, so then you give your cards a good push down, and then I just took my scissors and I trimmed bottom just like so. Just cut the bottom piece off. Okay, and then you're going to use these. So now you can flip these over and put them here onto your other side. Again, you can kind of layer them like so they're going down, so it kind of gives the feeling like you're walking past someone's gate. I put this, oops, kind of over here on the outside like it's a fence post. So let me go 1. I might need just 1 more. All right, let me try this. I'm going to trim these. So I'm going to trim this edge off altogether. That one will be kind of a dud. We can't do anything with that really. And then I'm going to trim this piece off here. And I'm going to use this again for this part of the card right here. So this is going to be like our little gate. And we're going to just trim the bottom. I kind of did it this way because I thought it gave it more of a even layer across the bottom. If that makes sense. Made the fence posts look like someone put them in level. All right, and then I'm going to take one of these and I'm going to just trim it across lengthwise. Just like that. And then I'm going to run some snail. Oops, wrong side. And I kind of ran this across here just for my post. So something is holding my fence together. Let's see, this one might look good right here. Oops, I might have to move this down just a hair. That's much better. And then I still have 2 more because I need to cut just a tiny one for this and fill in the other piece of the other side there. All right, so I'm going to do this here. And then I kind of will You can either overlap it or you could trim it, either or. And then I'm going to do just a little short one for this. So this one I'm going to just trim. So just like that, I'll let this have a little bit of an overhang. Trim this off. Perfect. Okay, so there's your little card. Only other thing we have to do is we're just going to label this up. You can see I got a little candy corn there. Change that up. And I originally was thinking of putting this up on dimensionals, but I was kind of afraid that it was going to take away from the posts, but I don't really know. I guess you could go either way. Well, dimensionals never hurt anybody. And I'm going to tell you one other thing, but I'm not going to make you suffer through this. I did go ahead after the fact and I sponged the edge of this because I thought it just sponging gives everything a little extra dimension. So those are what they look like opened. Again, you could also put a little panel in the back if you wanted to write on it. Or you could even fill a little white panel here. You could put your little note right there. So those are the cards open. Again, they both stand up fully. They look absolutely adorable. I wish you could see them here, and I'm going to try to get you a great picture so you can see them from the side. But thanks for following along and watching this video. I know it was a little long-winded. If you haven't already, make sure you go through the rest of the blog hop. There's a chance to win a lot of prizes. And if not, and you're watching this after the hop, you can certainly always stop by my blog. I have lots of new stuff there all the time. You can hit my online store and get all these supplies and more. That is rachthestamper.stampinup.net. My blog is rachthestamper.wordpress.com. And if you have any questions, you can always shoot me an email, rachthestamper@gmail.com. Thanks for taking time to watch, guys. I hope you have a great day.